See, I'm spoiling you with graphics, right? So I figure, well, if I don't really know what I'm talking about, I'll just show some really cool graphics. But this picture here should be why I'm sarcastic. Is this really biophilia? As you think about it, what would make you think, what's the thing that's wrong in this picture if you're thinking about biophilia? What thing doesn't belong here? Mm-hmm. And yet the train tracks, in some way, makes this more appealing. There's a dichotomy or a duality between this and that. Somehow we know that nature will win, don't we? In fact, if we leave within 50 years, the planet will be in great shape if we're gone. So some people are very polite. They say, if we all just retired, the planet would be in great shape. So biophilia is relatively, now how about that one? There's some things going on here, right? There's some structure there, right? So this is us facilitating nature, or facilitating a biophilic experience. We feel great when we walk through this, don't we? You all want to go walk through there, don't you? It probably smells great too. One of the problems I'm having with biophilia in studio is the students are forgetting it's more than just sight. It has to do with smell, touch, temperature, anything that we will sense and make us feel a certain way, right, could be considered to be biophilic. We tend to think visually, and that's one of the great travesties of design in the 21st century. It's become so visually oriented. How about this one? I actually have walked down this pathway. Bamboo is one of the worst plants in the history of all plants. This stuff is destructive. If you've been to Jamaica, anybody been to Jamaica lately? The entire rainforest is being eaten away by this beautiful biophilic material. See how my sarcasm is coming through? I love it. It's beautiful. I have bamboo in my yard. Oh, it's a horrible situation.
Hopefully you got the right kind.
No, of course not.
Is that an invasive species?
Yes.
Completely invasive. It's one of the most invasive species of all time. And it was brought here to this country as an ornamental plant, and it eventually slowly took over many, many acres. Now, so there actually is research that has been done on biophilia. I'm not going to read all these words, but actually we have 12 attributes that have been used to define biophilic design, and they're pretty well accepted. We've got color earth tones, which I kind of find funny, water, air. So this is the 12. I guess that's the 12. Let me go through the next slide. I forget how this works. 11 attributes. Oh, so these are, wow, there's a lot here. So here's my problem with this. I'm going to show you this information because that's what's in the literature, and this is what people are using when they talk about biophilia. But when I look at it more carefully, I'm concerned that it's like, hey, let's throw everything in the bathtub, swim it around, and we'll have biophilia. I wonder a little bit about some of these. However, there are some of these that are really, 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 really powerful drivers of design. So how many of you have been in a house that has a front porch? A front porch. No, you've never been in a house with a front porch. Isn't it just wonderful to sit on a front porch? You have the house behind you, you have the porch, you look down onto the street, you feel very safe. You're raised up a little bit. That is a condition that we as hunters in nature like that position. We feel very powerful. We feel very secure. So a lot of biophilia goes back to our innate roots as hunter-gatherers, which is kind of fun when you think about it, right? So for example, when we see water, when you're hiking in the forest and you hear water, you say, oh, that water sounds so pretty. No, that water is something that will make me survive. And part of the argument of biophilia is that we are conditioned to be attracted to things that will help us survive. So things like water, things like plants, things like clean air. When you ever go to a swamp, you know what a swamp is? You ever go to the swamps, you say, I don't like the swamps, right? Isn't that what you say? Why don't you like the swamps? Smells fine. What do you mean? What do you mean it smells bad? No, it has a certain odor which connotes the fact that something dangerous is happening there that could kill me. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with the smell. We've been conditioned instinctually to respond to different smells in different ways.
Or is it that all the water smells that way, but we chlorinate it to mask the smell?
It could be. It could be. Now, I know this is a very small slide. How many people like this building right up here? Is that a biophilic building? No? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm worried about the way that we just come up with these images and then we put what I call green pixie dust. We sprinkle our green pixie dust on the roofs and we say we have a sustainable biophilic building. A lot of greenwashing. However, I have to say though that when I see forms like this in 3 dimensions, not in floor, I was like, wow, that curve is really nice. Why do we like curves so much? We say curves are natural. don't we?
Organic.
Organic. We like organic. Although Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture was organic, wasn't it? And he didn't have any curves for the most part until he got on drugs and started doing spaceships.
What?
You know about the late career of Frank Lloyd Wright, right? All his buildings look like spaceships, right? He had an no, I'm totally serious. He had an encounter. I think he had an encounter with a UFO or something.
Too much acid.
Maybe too much acid. But there's a good reason to think about. A lot of people in here are interior designers. Who's an interior architect in this room? How you select materials. Would you consider this flooring to be biophilic flooring? Think before you answer.
For me personally.
Don't tell me whether you like the flooring or not, because I know the answer to that. But tell me, do you think this is biophilic, this floor?
No.
This floor, the carpet, yes.
No.
You say no.
It's
So it's supposed to be the floor of a forest. So this is supposed to be what you see when you walk through the forest. You don't see that.
No. I see dark, and lots of movement, and no, I don't feel restful.
You don't feel it?
No.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think? Anybody want to disagree with her? Do you feel the biophilicness of it? How about the wall in the back? That wall material, is that biophilic? It's cork. It's made from cork. Patrick, you're back there. Touch that wall. Now, do you think it's biophilic? Does it feel like cork to you?
It's like glue and chopped up wood.
It's like industrialized.
How about now? I could tell you the desktops, these desks. Now that's biophilic, right? What do you mean? It has a wood grain on it. It makes me feel good. I see wood. I'm very happy.
No.
Actually, there's a lot of cut marks on this. Would you guys stop cutting on the tables, please?
Marble countertops.
Marble countertops, biophilic, granite countertops.
Marble flooring.
How about light? It's too bad we're here at night, because usually I have the light coming in through the window and I can talk about the light. But certainly qualities of light. And again, going back to your instincts, you're going to be attracted to certain qualities of light and not attracted to other qualities of light. Especially when you've been in the dark for a long time, you go towards the light. You're not dying, you're just going towards the light. And so as architects and designers, we can shape light and create experiences in space. That's why I have biophilia in the upper left quadrant experience, because I think this is shaping our experience in space. Now, if I'm a construction manager, who cares about how I feel in a space? I just got to get this thing built, right? But ultimately, we all want to be proud of the buildings that we make and that we design. And we know from a sustainability point that if it's not beautiful, it's not sustainable, right? We all agreed on that point? So therefore, using biophilia to do that. Grab a chair from the hallway. Come and join us. Now, what's really interesting here is geographic connection to place. So who's familiar with the building downtown? It used to be new, called Liberty Place. It's blue. There's two of them, Liberty 1 and Liberty 2. I think I talked about this the other day in class. Remind me, did I not? And Liberty Place was designed in the 1980s by Helmut Jahn, very famous architect. The problem was that it was designed for Houston, Texas, and the funding fell through, so they took the drawings and they built it in Philadelphia. And then when it was reviewed by the New York architect critic Paul Goldberg, he said he liked the building because it reminded him of Chicago. So what happened? Does the building say anything about Philadelphia? No, probably not. But there are other buildings that speak to Philadelphia. I wish I had my slide here. How many people have seen Carpenter's Hall, or even Independence Hall, for gosh sakes? Independence Hall, what makes Independence Hall what makes you think that's a Philadelphia building?
The design.
What about the design?
It's 1776, during the Revolution.
All right, go biophilia. Don't go cultural. Go biophilia.
Biophilia.
That's good. Well, the brick, of course,
Yes,
right?
brick.
Why is there so much brick in Philadelphia?
Because it was manufactured here.
No, because we can get it. It's around us everywhere, right? In the old days, if you wanted to build a row house,
I thought in the old days.
you would dig up your basement. You would literally dig up your basement, put it on a horse and buggy, take it to the brickyard, trade the soil, your soil, and then they would load it up with bricks, and you'd pay some money too. They would use the soil from your basement to make more bricks. So the materials that we use are indigenous to our local material, and it gives us an historic connection to place.
They use stone foundation.
Now in Wissahickon, if you go out to Mount Airy and Chestnut Hill, what do you see?
Wissahickon stone.
You see Wissahickon schist. You see a gray stone that has a little shiny, right? And when you go hiking in the woods, you see the same stone coming out of the ground, and what you end up getting is an ecological connection to place. So when a sustainable designer is picking materials, we like local materials because of the impacts, reduced impacts, but we also like them because it drives the building more into the local space that we're in.
You can't brick case like a skyscraper or stone case.
Why not? You can make a skyscraper. Have you seen the new skyscrapers built out of timber?
I am a stone mason.
You could do it.
Huh?
You could do it, couldn't you?
It would take you forever and cost you a lot of money.
Now, here's the one I was talking about the porch. Prospect and refuge. Who's heard of this term before? Prospect and refuge. So when we're hunting, we want to be up safe, and then we want to shoot our arrows out and we want to see the animals or enemies coming at us, right? So we always want to have the sense of prospect, the view. Everybody wants a nice view from their house, right? Don't they? And you ever notice in the suburbs that everybody puts all these little bushes along the base of their house and they grow up towards the windows? You ever notice that? It's like this hiding our house, and then they have the big lawn, right? So it's like the prospect and refuge, right? So when the deer come up, you can just pick them off one by one. It's a good thing, right? But you know, we covered the lead ratings. When did we cover the lead rating system? Many weeks ago. It was boring, wasn't it? It was horrible. Or did we cover lead? What if this was the lead rating system? What if this was our rating system for design? Whole different discussion, isn't it? It's a lot more exciting, isn't it? I'd say. All right, what else we got? I didn't do that. I swear I didn't do that. Okay, the nice thing about biophilia is that there's a lot of research that is supporting that this really works, that there are reasons to pursue biophilia beyond I just want to feel good. Now, I know you're in the back, so I'll read some of these for you. If you have let's see, what is this one? Comparison between window proximity and health complaints. So what we're seeing here is that this would be near the interior core, meaning if you're in a skyscraper, you're going to have no windows, versus black being near the exterior window. So for eye strain, I'm better. Lower back pain, I'm better. Tiredness, better. Blurred vision, etc. down the road. What we're seeing now is that there is evidence that supports that everybody needs access to natural light, and you'll see in a minute fresh air. And that's why you're seeing in sustainable buildings that we have operable windows. I know that's radical, but we really do want to think about operable windows. Cough, nose, throat, eye irritation, sleeplessness, and that's been the biggest problem with these buildings that are very deep, is that people are not getting their sleep because their rhythms are thrown off base because they can't see the sun. Health gains related to access to natural environments. So what do we got here? I haven't looked at this lately. We got, you guys know what SBS stands for, sick building syndrome, right? So we've got sick building syndrome with window view. So let's see, what do we got here? Symptoms, I can't even read the slide. Doctor's visits, health gains. Oh, these are health gains from access to natural light. So these are improvements in health based on just having natural light. Now, if you were in Europe, there are laws that force you to design buildings where people are no more than 6 meters from a window. It won't be long before that happens in this country. We designers, for whatever reason, or we clients, or we who build buildings, don't seem capable of making sure that people have windows or have daylight. So we then have to rely on laws and building codes and zoning to force us to be responsible. So I told you guys about the fast food restaurant I was designing down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, right? I told you that story? Well, I'm going to tell it again because there's some students here that aren't in the day class. And these fast food restaurants have these really horrible kitchens, and I told the owner, I said, we're putting a window in the kitchen. And they said, what do you mean you're putting a window in the kitchen? I said, we're putting a window in the kitchen so the cooks can look out the window during the day, during their 8 hours. They said, we can't do that. They need to be looking at the fryer. They need to be making the fries. They need to work. And I said, okay, I understand that. So tell me, how much does it cost you to replace an employee? You have to fire somebody, train somebody, and get them up to speed. He said $3,000 to get a new employee. I said that window itself, to put that window in, is about $1,500. So you pay that window once. If you retain that employee for an extra 1 month or 2 months or a year because they have some natural light, you've made that money back 100-fold. And what we're trying, well, okay, maybe not 100. So what people are doing is they're making a relationship between subjective responses to the natural world and objective making money. And all of you guys that are involved in sustainability have to be able to make the financial argument, or you can't. And what's really nice about where sustainability is going is we're starting to put numbers on things that we couldn't put numbers on before. Severity of symptoms. So here we're going to go without, this is putting plants. Okay, so this one's about putting plants in the interiors. So you all saw my dying wall out there. It's starting to live again. Everybody knows we're bringing it back. one of our thesis students did an experiment to see if people could do better on a test if they were surrounded by plants, if they would actually score better. So she gave a test out, she scored it up, she built those living walls out there by herself with a welder, and then she gave the same test again, and she did find that people would score better on their tests. So the idea of us being surrounded by plants is not just because it's nice, it actually improves performance. And I know Isabella, she's always making the financial arguments. I'm trying to give you some tools here that you can use. Urban gardens build community and resiliency. That's just a statement. This is a really good one. So, access to nature reduces blood glucose by 40%, 21% from exercising indoors. What are all these things? Views to nature. This is great. Increases retail sales. You all are familiar with the Walmart story, right? They built a store with skylights on one side and no skylights on the other, and they tracked the sales on the two sides. And the side with the skylights got about a 20 to 25% increase in sales. So they said, well, that can't be right. That's just because the product merchandise. So what they did is they flipped the merchandise. And sure enough, the merchandise that was moved under the skylights sold at 20 to 25% at a higher rate. All the packaging, all the effort that we put into design packaging under daylight looks better, right? And also you guys, some of you have probably been out to a bar and met somebody and it was dark and you happen to see them the next day, I don't know, and you say, oh, that person doesn't look like what I thought they looked like, right? Daylight is a very, and I'm sorry if I made anybody upset. I'm sorry if I made somebody upset. I'm just, I would never do that, but I'm just saying that, a little bit of humor. Just a little bit of humor here, okay? Shortens hospital stays. So here we got, we're going to short hospital stays by 8.5%. Over many years, that's a huge savings for the hospital, right? Because they want to get as many people in those doors and get them out. Increase property values, right? These are all real financial things, right? Includes employee productivity. That's the big one. Because if you think of your energy savings is X when you do a sustainable building, your savings on your employees in terms of its impact is 10X. Why? Because most of your company's business is in salaries. So if you can improve them by 3%, you're looking at huge gains for companies. And this has been a big driver for corporate sustainability for a long time. And it's slowly being proven out. Once this gets proven out, really proven out, even Toll Brothers might think, oh, I'm sorry. It's so mean. Well, you know, you have to take the hit. You know that.
Unfortunately.
That's when it was so great when he interviewed to come to the program. He says, I work at Toll Brothers. I said, great. That's just fantastic. We got all this material we can use. This is the thing. So here are your salaries at 85%. So 85% of a business cost is on salary. So if you can improve performance by 3% of 85% of your financial installments, that's a huge number. And if you're a big corporation like, what's a really super big corporation that has lots of office space? Like Google, well, look at what Google does. I mean, talk about, take Cigna Insurance. They have about 40,000. Imagine if you had 40,000 employees and everybody was in a building that had daylight and plants and fresh air. Think about the increase in productivity that we have here. All right, so I'm not going to watch that video. So let's take a look at some pictures. This is actually this is my favorite building in the world. This is in Mali. It's Djenne Mosque, right?
Where's Mali?
Mali is in Western Africa,
It's where they just
Northwestern.
had a problem this past week.
They had, unfortunately, a terrorist attack there.
Yeah. This week.
Now, based on what I was saying to you, was this a biophilic building? Probably, yes.
There's something about it, yes.
There's something about it. Give me a little bit more.
That makes me feel that I can see that. Natural, earthy.
Right. It's
connected to the earth.
It's clearly made from the local place, right? Clearly, there's earth here, and this earth has been made into this, and there's some wood. And wood is not. That's a pretty deserted area, so that wood is actually really valuable. Ironically, now I've been studying this building. It's right actually in the middle of a city. Like this photo is actually really not a good accurate perception of this building.
They have livestock.
They have a whole marketplace. They have a giant marketplace in front of this building.
Animals are.
How about this one?
They're fed.
Now this one doesn't have. Is this a biophilic experience? Is this a biophilic? This is a step well in India, by the way.
I've seen it. I've seen pictures of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Only.
Is it biophilic?
Well, the
These
water kind of.
Look at that. Look at the rhythm. Yes. You say yes? So you know they have rainy season in India, right? So this just kind of fills up, and then it goes down and fills up. It's early. It's all of this high performance building stuff. We have cultures that have been figuring out sustainability
A
long time before any America even existed in the form that it is. How about this? Is this biophilic?
No.
Come on, look at the shape of each one of those pieces of stone.
It's not natural. It's like cut, like sliced.
Biophilia is not about natural, does it? Yes.
It's funny because maybe the environment there is like stone.
Yeah,
mountain,
maybe.
something like
Look at every stone there is a different cut, right? It's not just like the same repetitive piece of stone every time, right? Although the form itself is somewhat repetitive. It's actually these patterns, right? Remember, biophilia has a lot to do with patterns. We tend to see patterns. Yes, ma'am.
So, I have a question.
Come on, get it out.
No.
Speak
Come
up.
on, we'll still be done by 9:30. Don't
No,
worry.
you probably just didn't talk about it yet.
What's that?
Oh my gosh.
Can I ask a question, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
And then you can think about if you want to.
Go ahead.
So in that particular picture, when you first showed the slide, I have initial response.
Yes.
Initial emotional response. You
Yeah.
know, so if that is one of maybe not a positive one, would that be then considered biophilia?
Oh, so she jumped ahead. So what if you saw something in nature that made you feel bad? Would that still be biophilia? We'll get to that in a minute. Yes, what was yours? Get it out.
Okay, well, the steps made me think of like a wandering path.
Yeah.
So like that kind of like hidden paths are
Yeah.
really back to nature, but
Right, so
that's
there's,
just there, so I didn't know if it was really.
if you remember the earlier slides, exploration and discovery was a big part of biophilia. How we create circulation patterns in buildings. Sometimes when people are exploring the building and discovering spaces, it's a big thing. It's a big part of biophilia. How about that one? That's literally sort of built out of the actual stone there. I actually don't know where that is, so does anybody know where that is maybe?
Yeah.
Where is that?
Turkey.
That's in Turkey. Love this class. We got
Something like this in Iran as well.
in Iran?
It's Kandalwan.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. How about this one we know? It's just a ruin. Who cares? Why is everybody going to see this? It's just a bunch of stones and
South
a
America,
That's the date.
Peru.
Because there's like
So old.
just a bunch of stones dead on the.
this does. This one I can feel.
But you notice that the architecture here is kind of following the contours, right? So it's not imposed upon the contours. How about that?
Of course.
Japanese garden? Anybody ever been to one of these, like up close in Japan? You have?
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right? And every morning there's a guy who comes out and he rakes the stones. And sometimes they change the pattern, right? This is supposed to, you got to think about scale jumps here, right? This could be a whole landscape that you can inhabit. So when you meditate, you shrink yourself down to be a little person on a boat in there and you travel around in the garden. Do you know that's how it worked? You could do it, right? Doesn't that look like water? I mean, that could be water. This could be a boat. That's a mountain, right? Now, how in the world did Walter Gropius and other modernist architects see that and come back to Europe and do steel and glass rectangles? I don't know. But what's going on here? Look what we got here. We got some wood. We got some rice paper. We got the layers, right? So we have the refuge here and we have the prospect out there. Very comfortable space to be in. This is this one, the Imperial Villa. Not a curve here in the architecture. So that's the plan. That's what it looks like three-dimensionally. That's the plan. It's based on all those tatami mats are based on what proportion? All of these rectangles. You notice there's a repeating pattern of rectangles. They're all based on the golden section.
The golden section.
Is the golden section real? Everybody says, if you design this rectangle a certain proportions, people like it.
I believe so.
Why do you believe that?
Because
somebody told you?
Because I actually experimented with it.
I have
For
too.
example,
I'm teasing you.
yes.
Okay.
Paint a wall.
Paint a wall?
Paint a wall and divide it.
You serious?
See,
Oh, I'm going to do that. What about this one? Who is this? You were there?
Well, yeah. It's on the show.
Antonio Gaudí? This be Sagrada La Familia?
It's in
He was definitely on drugs. I'm sorry. And what was he? He was actually a super religious guy. I went to visit his house. His house is right in Park Quell, and you go into his room and there's nothing there. The room is completely empty. There's none of this in where he lives. He has a cross over the bed, and that's it. But when he did architecture, he was trying to connect to, I guess, to what he thought God was.
Higher self. Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. So who's been there? You guys, who's been there? You've been traveling a lot. So is this building forming, or yeah, it's still under construction, or is it falling apart? Forming or falling apart? Both, right? And that's part of the appeal of the ruin. Why do we like ruins so much? Why are we attracted to ruins? We like ruins. Why?
It connects us to the past.
It connects us to the role of nature in building or destroying or not destroying. We're connected to that process. That is the structural model for Sagrada La Familia. He hung weights upside down to find the parabolic shape, and then he just turned it back upside down. So this shape here was developed by hanging weights upside down. He also had a lot of animal bones in his studio. He was looking at animals for inspiration. And pretty important concept here is that no right angles here, so it can vary. Now, quick trick question. Anybody know this? Come on, architecture. Who had architecture history class? You have to know this. You don't? What? This is the Columbian Exposition of 1893 in Chicago. Why is it important? What happened in 1893 in Chicago? Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright went to the Columbian Exposition, right? He saw this. This, what I would say, would not be biophilic, personally speaking. But he also saw that. This is one of the first buildings that Frank Lloyd Wright ever saw in his development, and it impacted him for his entire life and changed the way he thought about architecture because he was able to see things that were not just that, which was the classical tradition. And you see that really affected him. Now that is Falling Water. That's the fireplace in Falling Water. These boulders were actually on site. He built the building around and into and with the boulders already there. That's dumb. Who would do that? Why would you do that? That's just annoying. If I was a CM, I would hate that, right? Here's your construct. I guess I can imagine the construction drawings for this, right? This stone, all this stone came from a half a mile away from the actual site. So again, this idea of biophilia, of driving place and the available materials into the design was pretty critical. What about this one? You guys know this one? Johnson Wax Building. Biophilic? You guys realize how brilliant the guy was. Look at this band of white light here. Do you know how hard that is to do architecturally? To create a structure where you don't see any structure? The roof was completely floating. And but you're basically in a forest. It could be oppressive. I don't know.
Oh, that's weird.
Look at that early computer. You know that he stood. You know that they wouldn't approve his columns, right? You guys heard the story. The zoning, the code guys would not approve this for construction. So he said, "Okay, I'll stand under it. You put as much weight on it as you want." They built one outside. They weighted it up. He stood under it, and it didn't collapse. So he was good. And who knows this one? This is Thorn Crown Chapel by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. Right? So this was actually, each piece of wood here was brought in on foot. When they built the building, they didn't want to bring any vehicles on the building. They just wanted to make it a purely natural expression. And there it is from the outside. And people love this building. They love this building. Why do you love the building? It's just some wood and some glass. Who cares? So if you look at those trees, and you look at the verticality of the building, you're starting to see a relationship that's being formed, right? It feels like it's part of a place. And yet geometrically, it's pretty strong geometrically. This one, you guys know this one. This is Bruce Goff. This is another student of Frank Lloyd Wright, building based on a spiral. Don't try to do that at home. It's actually really difficult to build those. This is one of the original best buildings. This is the first big box store in the U.S. This is James Wine's site architecture. The building is in ruin. Do you like it or not? No? Patrick's not? Why not?
Where's the location? Somewhere in the southwest?
I think so. I don't know. Actually. Look at these cars. They're really old. You don't like it, Patrick?
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's biophilic.
No, I wouldn't either, actually. This is some of his later work in Chattanooga. He did some public space. Those are bridges, and it's meant to express an earthquake, sort of a shifting of tectonic plates, so the bridges are like that. Building based on a bird. That's actually not built. You guys have been to this one by Renzo Piano. Green roof, meant to be a landscape. It's on the exam. What number? Exam question number what?
7.
God, the fact that you know that it's number 7 scares me.
Oh, we had a study group.
That's the roof. Now this is what I mean about green pixie dust. To me, this is an architect taking green design and not doing it authentically. He's just doing a building, or she's just doing a building, and they're throwing stuff like pixie dust on there. I call it pixie dust, which is just green stuff. This one looks so. This is Ken Yang's tower. Starting to think about skyscrapers as vertical forest. Isozaki in Japan, the idea of the park goes right up the building. Yay? Yay? Okay, yay. Really hard to build, by the way. This is another Isozaki building. This is in San Antonio. Now, this is the question for you. So we talked about light and quality of light. This is probably considered one of the top 50 buildings in the world. Lucan's Exeter Library. Look at the quality of light coming in there. What do you think? It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
You could create biophilia without curves, right? This is in Amsterdam. I'm trying to go. I have to. There it is again. Greenwashing. Hey, I'm going to do a community of the future. Let me greenwash you guys. How about this one? So for all the interior designers out here, you got this nice creek here. You got these things, but then you got this big old skylight up there from your systems class that would tell you.
You have ceiling tiles along with that. That's just terrible.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
So I think that what the lesson I'm trying to get from you guys is you don't want to just throw biophilia at every project. And that skylight, by the way, is a disaster for energy efficiency. I just want to tell you that if you were sitting here and you had no hair and the sun came out, you're just done. You would cook.
So it would be low in the systems quadrant.
Very low in the systems quadrant, low in the performance quadrant, very high probably on the experience quadrant, although I just think that some of these are very fly-by-night. So here's the critique. So there's a big critique of biophilia. I also feel this. If you see a spider crawling up your arm, what do you do? That's not love of nature. You just said you're going to kill the spider. I thought biophilia was about love of nature. How? If you're, the Buddhists, they just brush it off, right? They don't kill any bugs, right? They have a little brush.
And you pick it up and put it outside.
So what's going on? Why are we killing that spider?
It's disgusting.
Like that? I don't understand. What's the problem? Look at her.
They poop everywhere, man.
What's the problem? All right, wait. Okay, it's clear. I'm confused. I thought that biophilia was love of nature. How could you not love those little creatures? But let's think about. Hold on. Why were we repulsed by those creatures? Let's think about it more deeply. Think about your human instincts. What do those creatures represent in terms of your quality of life and your likely disease? Who said disease? Oh, you can't talk. Sorry. Disease, right? So we know through centuries and centuries and centuries of interacting with these creatures that they carry disease. Therefore, when we see them, we're like, oh, this is disgusting, but they're not really disgusting. We've become attuned to the fact that they're disgusting, but they're not. I mean, how many people have a cat in their house? And how many people have a dog? Right? So what do you got with the cats and dogs? This is the most dumb thing. Like, why would people have pets? They cost you. My cat was sick, and it was going to be $300 to fix him. And I said, just put him down. There's another cat right around the corner. We can just bring him right in. Put him down. Right? I mean, we have too many cats and we have too many dogs. So my point being is that you won't take one of those for a pet. I'll just do it real quick. Sorry. You won't take one of those for a pet, but you'll have this little cat in your...
do anything. The cat gives you affection.
Cat doesn't give you
Cats
anything.
are really independent.
Cats are just, and they have gross, and they smell, and you got to clean the litter, and then you got to buy them food, and do you know how much who has the cats here? You're paying like $1,000 a year for a cat. You're paying $1,000 a year to feed and take care of your cat. You're telling me that's worth it?
So did you put the cat
Yeah, biophilia is a very strong motivator, right? Because we want the cat and dog around us, and but we don't really have an answer for this, do we? If you see a snake, yeah, I even just say the word snake and she freaks out, right? So there's the critique of biophilia is we also have this thing called
But I also think
biophobia.
it's more in the culture quadrant as well, because we don't have an understanding or...
Is it really though, or is it just from evolution of us as a species reacting to the natural world and what's safe and what's not safe?
The snake is big enough, it will eat you. Your dog is going to eat you.
That's true. That's true.
Well,
So we do have something called biophobia. So we have biophilia, we have biophobia. There's things in nature that we're naturally afraid of, and for good reason. Name something else that we're afraid of. Sorry, and then we'll end this segment. Biophobic,
Crocodiles,
shark, right?
alligators,
So my wife and I are swimming down at the beach, and it was the sandbar. You guys know what a sandbar is, right? So we're way out. And I swear to God, this was so cool. The dolphins come by. The dolphins swim by. They're 10 feet from us. And my wife and I are like, this is the greatest experience of our life. And then some joker on the beach yelled, shark. So we're like out there fooling around, and we're like, come on over. And they're like, everybody on the beach is like, get out of the water, get out of the, right? This makes sense, right? It's no problem. So yeah, we are biophobic of sharks, even though we know generally they won't hurt us. Won't they? We're not taking any chances, right? What else are we biophobic of? Cockroaches, we don't like them.
Disgusting.
Spider, disgusting. They're not disgusting. They're just animals, right?
Crap everywhere, man.
Oh, look at her. She can't even handle it.
Yeah, 'cause I had one crawl on my arm once. It was gross.
Oh. You probably had it in your food. You just didn't know it. So. Oh, you don't eat fast food, do you? You probably eat healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, you're okay then. You probably. Any of you have been to any of those fast food restaurants? I'm just letting you know. I worked in a restaurant. There's a lot more going on there than you would ever want to know, so just keep that in mind. So all I ask, I'm going to end the biophilia. I mean, you could do a whole course on biophilia. When you guys get to studio, and many of you will be in studio in the spring, right? Please don't just start throwing green pixie dust. If you're going to do biophilia, study it, and also try to get a biologist or somebody with some expertise to come in and work with you, so that you're not just, I'm biophilic, because I'm not going to buy into it. You have to really convince me. I think a lot of other professors, they fall for the green pixie dust. I refuse to do it.